Our presentation is going to be sort of the benefit of electricity market reform in Nigeria. This is really a very difficult thing, something which we started and we stop and we continue and we hope we are going to finish it now. So usually we will not be talking much of benefit on the ground to the consumers, but much more of what are the expected benefits, because a system needs to be in place for a period of maybe 5 to 10 years before you start talking of the concrete. I mean, because we try to look at some of the statistics, but the statistics are nowhere, the basis to compare, they are not there. So what I'm saying is we are going to look into a lot of issues like why did we even go into the reform, what we call the problems in the power sector reform, and the need for the reform. Why do we need the reform and what are the problems? Then what is the approach adopted by the Federal Republic of Nigeria in carrying out the reform? As they said, there are many ways to skin a cat. So, and what are the approach followed by the Nigerian government to implement the reform? And we look at the big picture. That is what destination. After the reform, what are we expecting? That is the big picture after the reform. After the implementation, most of the reform, so what do we expect? And that is what we are going to look. Then we'll look at what will be the benefits to the consumers and the investors. At the end of the day, the consumers of electricity in Nigeria and in West Africa and in some part of Africa that will stand to benefit from this reform process, and the investors. The investors are very strong, they can protect themselves, and as we discussed yesterday, we have shown all the protection given to the investors in the electricity. But what will be the benefit to the Nigerian consumers after the reform? Then we'll look at some of the Commission has been in existence for about, since 2007, so almost about 5 to 6 years. So we'll look at what the achievements of the Commission, because the Commission is part of the reform process, is the center of the reform process. And then, after the privatization of the distribution companies and generation companies, what agenda the Commission has set for itself going forward. The problem of electricity in Nigeria, there is limited access to electricity. I think less than half of the Nigerian are not having electricity. And out of the half that are having the electricity, the availability is on the average less than 10 hours in a day. I'm even trying to be very careful not to say it's maybe less than 10 hours, but it's not more than 10 hours in a day. So, and the connection, that definitely the connection rate is very low. Those who, you can't see, I mean, one day it's not there, you cannot have more customers to connect to the system. Then the generation capacity is very low. We cannot attract investment, and the government generation plants did not materialize. Then, there is no capital for investment. The regulation is virtually not there. It's being done by the ministry, and so it's more of the technical regulation. That is some of the standards. So the tariff, again, is not reflecting the cost. It's just about 6 naira. 6 naira is less than 1 rand per kilowatt hour. It's less than, no, it's 6 naira is it's just about a quarter of a rand. Yes, just a quarter of a rand when the Commission comments. So it doesn't reflect the actual cost of the electricity. And so, you cannot attract the sustainability of the sector rests on if you have a cost-reflective tariff or near cost-reflective tariff. So before the reform, the tariff is not even, is about 40% of the the cost of generating and transmission, distribution and transmission of electricity. Then there is higher technical and commercial losses. All this, they are very high. The insufficient transmission and distribution facilities, inefficient use of electricity by the consumers. Those who have them, because the tariff doesn't reflect the cost, there is misuse, there is no conservation of energy, you see. Well, a lot of, some are stealing the electricity and other things now, just because the price being paid doesn't reflect the cost. And the ownership maybe being in the hand of government. Some see it as part of the, well, all these are part of history. And then the aims of the reform, I just said here is the aim is just to have nothing more than reliable power supply at efficient cost. This is just what we intend to do in terms of the reform. So anything which will lead to us to have a reliable power supply to Nigerian consumers and at the efficient cost. This is the aim of the reform. This is what the reform aim at achieving. So if we have this reliable power supply at a most efficient cost, maybe there may not be a question of reform. So as I said yesterday, the reform of the sector in Nigeria was because to sort out an issue. It's not a philosophical or any other, not left, right, center, no. The issue is we need to have reliable power supply to Nigerian consumers, period. Then the approach we have followed in doing that. The approach, we have a horizontal segmentation of the market. So we will have a division in terms of different companies doing generation, transmission, distribution, and retailing. That is, no company will be allowed to be into generation and transmission, or into transmission and distribution, or into, there is limitation into one entity doing generation and distribution, subject to approval of the Commission, but no entity will be allowed to do generation and transmission at the same time, or transmission and distribution at the same time. So this is our own model, that there is going to be companies doing generations, transmission, distribution, and retail. We'll see how it goes. And then another approach is there's going to be, some of the companies will be totally privatized. Some of them, they will be partially privatized. And some of them there will be concession, and then there will be management contract. So it's a mixture of all. In some other jurisdictions, I think they go into 100% privatization, selling to the private sector. But the Nigerian model is generation will be 100%, 100% privatization. Distribution, it will be 51% private sector, and some other, that percentage is being increased, but it's a mixture of, but dominance of the private ownership, and then government will still retain some ownership, and part of it will be given to the states. In Nigeria we have 31 states. And then the concession, the hydro plants, these are the most strong plants, they will be concession. They have not been sold, and they will not be privatized because of security. We have 2 hydro plants, and they have capacity of almost 1,000 megawatts, I think. About 1,000 or so. Actually, I think 1,000 megawatts. Okay, so those hydro plants, they are not going to be sold, but there will be a concession, and that has already been concluded. Then the transmission company, that is where we'll have a management contractor. Manitoba, a Canadian firm, is already in existence. So this is the approach. The next one is the creation of a regulatory authority. A commission will be established. The to regulate the activity, the players. Whenever you have private ownership, you must be sure there must be a regulator. Otherwise, the private investors will take advantage of the situation and the consumers will have a bad day. So the Electricity Regulatory Commission is part of it. The policy making within the sector now is going to be in the hand of the ministry. The Federal Ministry of Power, or whatever is the name, because it used to be Federal Ministry of Energy, Federal Ministry of Power and Mines. Today it's Federal Ministry of Power. Whatever the name will be in charge of policy making and ensuring that the policy is implemented, monitoring and all what the ministry is supposed to be done. But in terms of certain standard regulation, economic regulation, technical regulation, that will be done by the commissions. So there is a clear demarcation of who is to do that. That is the approach. Like the energy mix is coming from the ministry. So then another aspect of the approach is will establish competition at the generation and retail stage of the market. They will be competitive. Then there is going to be we'll create a system operator. A system operator will do the scheduling, dispatching of electricity through the national grid, and then they will do the market settlement. That is the system operations, which today is an arm of the transmission company of Nigeria. Then the other approach is there's going to be an option for retail customers to choose their service providers. This is all part of the big picture. It's not there, but this is the approach. At the end of it, this is where we hope to be. This is the approach. Some of the reform in some other countries, you find out they said, no, retail will not be involved in competition. It's continue to, maybe it will be regulated, or maybe older generation that will be open for competition. But our own model, our own approach is that the retail aspect generation will be open for competition in the long term. Then another aspect critical to the reform and the development of the electricity market, not only in Nigeria, is everywhere. Because whenever you talk of the price of the market, prices, but well, in economic analysis, we're even been told that market is price. So whenever you talk of the market, it's the price. So market is the price. So the development within the market, how we intend to reach those what I've identified in terms of competitions and other things now is going to be determined by the extent of we set the price. So it's going to determine how the price is going to be set. So what I'm saying is the development in the market, which to certain extent drive the approach in setting the tariff. As you can see in generation, during the transitional stage, which we're about to enter at this stage, is going to be regulated. The generation tariff is going to be regulated, that the regulator will fix generation tariff. And that is going to be done through the use of the long-range marginal cost to determine what an efficient generator is supposed to get. Because the law is saying that the Nigerian consumers should only be allowed us to pay an efficient cost. So during the transitional stage of the most efficient price is a competitive price determined based on, through a competitive market, based on demand and supply, but everything being equal. That is the assumptions. But we know you need to reach a certain stage before you allow the market to determine that price. So during the transitional stage of the market, which is characterized by short supply of electricity, the generation tariff will be set. Transmission tariff during that time will be, this is a natural monopoly, so the Commission will continue to set the transmission tariff using what we call the building block approach. The distribution tariff is going to be set by the Commission during that time period using the building block approach, and the retail tariff is going to be set still by the Commission using the building block approach. During the medium stage of the market, this is a stage we expect there will be an increase in supply of electricity, and all the codes, the standard, everything which you need to have in the market is there, and it has been tested. Like we have the market rules, we have the grid codes, and we have most of all the codes you expect in the market, we have them. So, but they are being tested, but during the medium stage of the market, there will be more supply of electricity, and then most of the codes they have been in place, they have been tested, and during that stage, then part of the generation tariff will remain unregulated, so it will be based on the demand and supply of electricity, then that which will set the market, the price. But part of it will still be regulated, and mostly the long-term contract. Then during the transmission system will continue to be regulated, distribution will continue to be regulated, and retail aspect, part of it will be open up for competition, and part of it will continue to be regulated. During the long-term stage of the market, that is where when we expect maybe we have reached up to 40,000 megawatts, there is enough supply of electricity, there is even capacity, there is excess in terms of the transmission network is very strong and other things now. So at that stage, generation will be left to the market. The price of generation will be left to the market to determine. This is a long picture. I don't know when we are going to be there, but for transmission and distribution network, the network business will continue to be regulated. The tariff for this aspect will continue to be regulated in the market. And that stage will allow the competition to come in, retail competition. People can switch their service providers if they so wish. So that is the extent of market development is driving the issue of regulating tariff. Then this is what we call the big picture, where we intend to be. That is what I call the final destination. Just similar to what we have there, that at the end of it, that is at the last stage of the market, that is the final destination, generation, 100% of generation will be, in terms of a strategy, it will remain open for competition. So there is no restriction to entry, and to a certain extent there may not be much restriction to exit, but the market has its own restrictions in terms of exit. There is no easy exit from the electricity generation market. Then the regulation of generation to some extent will still be limited to what we call the must-run generation plant. That is like hydro, nuclear, if we have them, and those aspects will continue to be regulated as much as possible. Then we will have to look at the issue of market power at that time, because it will become imminent when you have a price. Then, as I said, tariff will remain unregulated. Then the retail aspect, too, will remain open for competition. There will be different degrees of responsibility to those who are going to participate in the retail business. That is when you can switch from service provider A to service provider B, and you can set up your own tariff. We have seen it in other parts of the world, and then the tariff will remain, will not be regulated at that time, and the retailers will be providers of last resort, and there will be option to switch suppliers, as I said. Transmission, at the end of it will remain a legal monopoly. So we anticipate, and that is what the policy of the Nigerian electricity power policy is, that there will be one transmission company. So it will be a legal monopoly. They will have there may be one or more company, maybe that is the country may be divided into maybe 2 or 3 transmission regions, but within a given distribution area, there is going to be only one transmission company. Maybe we'll have regional transmission company, but that is in the long term. Then the management contract, which I said is not going to be privatized, but there will be a manager. Then tariff will continue to be regulated. Now today we are using the what we call the building block methods. Maybe we'll progress into locational marginal pricing or any other pricing method which we think is appropriate. For the distribution, it is going to, the distribution aspect of the business, that is the network of the distribution, just like the transmission, it will still be a legal monopoly within a given territory. Then there will be restriction for own generation. That is, distribution companies, although today they have license to do distribution network business, and they can do the retail aspect of the business, but they are allowed to generate their own power. Up to, there are still limits. There will be a limit to what we'll call the generation for, on generation. Then tariff will be regulated, private ownership with minimum government shareholding, and tariff will remain regulated, but with incentive for improvement. There is going to be incentive for improvement. If you make improve in terms of efficiency, a distribution company will make more money. That is the model. Then we expect to have a more independent regulator, and then there will be independent system operator. Today, the system operation is part of the transmission, but in the long run, the picture we are trying to see is there will be an independent system operator, and then there may be an independent market operator doing their job independently, not under the transmission company, not under the government, because I think that is the best for a market to flourish. Then, all this put together, what will be the benefit to the consumers of electricity and the investors? Definitely, when you put this, you can see an increase in access to electricity, which we have started to see now. There will be improvement in efficiency by increasing collection, reducing technical and non-technical losses, and thus reducing the cost of retail business. As I'm speaking to you now, some of the distribution companies are settling their invoices, that is the cost of power, 100%. So there has been an increase in the, number one, there has been an increase in having access to electricity. When the reform started, we were just about 3,000 megawatt. Today, we have capacity of about 5,400 megawatt, generation up to 4,000 megawatt. So you see, there had been an increase in generation capacity, effective generation capacity, and a number of plants are coming on board before the end of the year. A number of the NIPP projects will come on board. So generation capacity is expected to increase to about 6,000 or 7,000 megawatt. Then there are fair tariffs to all end users. Our tariffs now reflect the cost. We have set the tariff. Our end user tariff now is about 20 naira per kilowatt hour, which is about 1 rand. You need to see when I try to compare our tariff with that of South Africa, you see ours may be lower, but what makes tariff is the cost. Electricity, power generation cost in Nigeria, the gas, which is the main source of generation electricity in Nigeria, is priced at $1.80. And I think here in South Africa, the cost of gas is almost about $4 to $5. So you can see, and the gas constitutes over 50% of the cost of electricity. Then improving the quality of customer services. That we have started to see, because today many customers what we know as NEPA, that is Never Expect Power at All, or PSCN, that the problem have changed its name. So, but all this is that is NEPA and PSCN. So you see, now customers are coming out to complain, but before they cannot even complain. You see, so in this type of arrangement now, we see the success in increase in the number of complaints, not decrease in the number of complaints. No, the more complaints we received at the commission, at the customer forums established by the commission, that shows, yes, the Nigerian consumers are becoming aware of their rights and their obligations to the system. Then cost recovery. Anybody involved in doing this business is recovering his cost now. The regulatory certainty, because of what the commission has done, a number of investors, they are aware, they are certain what the direction the commission is going to take. We have a long-term tariff framework, which is about 5 years. We have the market rules and others. Then another thing is the open access to the national grid. Today, all generators, if you have your license, you will be allowed to transmit your power through the grid. There is no restrictions as long as you satisfy the terms and conditions of your license. Okay, I think this is second to the last slide. Mr. Chairman, I hope I'm on time. Okay, then the commission has done a lot of things within the period. Number one is we have the customer-oriented rule-making procedures, that the business rules, there must be consultations and others before rules are made, and with the customer at the background. Then reflective cost tariff methodology. Tariff methodology, it reflects the cost. This is the requirement of the law. The Act, Section 76, asks that all the participants in the market must cover their cost, both what the apparent and non-apparent cost, including the risk. All this you have to quantify them and compensate the operators. We have developed operating code and standard, like the key performance indicators. The operators, we don't allow them just to do what they are. No, we have the key performance indicators, which we continue to measure on monthly basis. Some are then on quarterly basis. So we keep track of, if you are a generation company, there are certain things which you have to do. If you are a distribution company, there are certain performance targets which you must meet. If you are a transmission company, there are certain performance targets which we have developed, and it's already being applied in the industry. Then the market rules. We have the market rules, which is already there and is being implemented in the market. The grid codes, we have the health and safety manuals to protect not only the consumers, but to protect the workers within the electricity sector. This has been codified, and there is strict implementation on all these kind of things. We have connection and disconnection procedures, how you can connect customers, retail customers, and how you can disconnect them, what will be the penalties, and all this, what I want to emphasize is there is a penalty if, like the health and safety codes, if you did not meet up the standard, there is a penalty. Like the issue of market rules, you breach part of the market rules, first there will be financial penalties continuously, then it will reach a situation where you will even be suspended from the market. Then the connection and disconnection procedures, if the utility did not follow up in terms of the standard, then you have to get a penalty. Then we have developed the, 5 minutes, embedded generation regulation, which is all this is to increase generation capacity. Bulk power procurement, this is going to be finalized to ensure competitive procurement of power by the bulk trader. We have developed consumer complaint handling process, and consumer from offices and power consumer assemblies has all been established. These are critical, and they are milestone achievement to the commissions. And what we are saying is now the market is set, both from the side of the consumers and from the side of the investors. Then after privatization, there will be a lot of issues. And the agenda we have set for the commission that there is going to be a study to carry with the new owners of the distribution companies to verify assumptions we use in setting the tariff to see whether they are credible assumptions. Then the uniform system of account is going to be implemented. The code of corporate governance is going to be put in place for all the new owners, because the ownership is now moving from the government to the private sector. Then we'll start the transitional market of electricity. The Power Consumer Assistance Funds is coming in to support those consumers who are, there is no subsidy. So there is no subsidy. The only subsidy will be maybe the production at the production level. Maybe the gas will continue to be subsidized up to a certain level, but at the retail level distribution, no subsidy. Those consumers who are disadvantaged, low-income consumers, they will be taken care of by the Power Consumer Assistance Fund. What we are saying is the subsidy will be targeted to those who really need it. Then the thing we are going to put in more effort in ensuring that there will be stable and efficient network. That is transmission, so that we minimize the level of losses and we enhance the reliability of power being given to the consumers. Mr. Chairman, I think that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. You can always